Well, today's radio is one from the rather large ITT stable. We've looked at a few things from that because obviously ITT, although they made radios under their own name, also bought up a lot of brands, including a number of British brands like RGD and KB, and sold them still under the British name, but they were actually making them. This one is one of their own. It's late 70s, Polo S, it's called. They all had sort of, a lot of them things, they call them Golfs and Polos. They seem to have copied their naming from VW, really. I suppose they could get away with that because they're obviously not making cars. But if they'd made car radios, I'm not sure what would have happened then. Anyway, so this is quite a high-spec one, really. It's 4-wave band. It's got a short wave. As well as having medium wave, long wave and VHF. I think it's quite nice styling. It feels very solid. It's got a tuning meter. This thing called DC test, which I assume that your LED goes green if your battery's okay and red if it's not. And the buttons have quite a nice feel to them, certainly. I think they're quite good. The one thing that we have noticed already, of course, is that the telescopic aerial has gone AWOL, and that could be a bit of a problem because, as we've seen in the past, these are very customised for the type of radio that it is. So hopefully we'll be able to find something that fits. And it's got IC Technic, which means that it's got integrated circuits in it, which would have been a big advanced thing for the time. Full volume and tone controls, both feel very nice and smooth. Tuning on this side, the tuning scale very clear and hasn't been littered with any stations, so it doesn't get to be wrong in 1978 and wrong again sometime in the 1990s. And on the back of it, it looks like it's had a sort of corporate existence, really, because this looks like one of those anti-theft labels that people used to add to in-house corporate equipment or whatever. And also it's had a PAT test 10 years ago, so I'm pretty certain it's not going to electrocute me. It can take either what looks like 6 D cells, which will make it quite heavy, or you can plug the mains into it, which is what I'm going to do, so we can have a listen to it. Right, it's plugged in. I have switched it on, and if I switch it on, you can see the little green light comes up, stays on for a while, and then goes out, hopefully. Yeah. Obviously, you don't want your battery indicator itself to be drawing current all the time. That would sort of defeat the purpose of it. But the tuning needle you can see is indicating now, so I just turn the volume up a bit. We're on long wave at the moment. And you can see it. You can see the tuning meter peaking there. And you can vaguely hear Radio 4 through all the shash here, but if I turn it round, that's pretty good. Let's try it on medium wave. Turn the volume up would be good, wouldn't it? About here. Yep.
To Bakuna to rifle it home from 10 yards. Birmingham 1 up. The details of that goal at Bramall Lane, that's Faruqi.
Element and Dye with the header for Sheffield United at the top on the right-hand side. Sheffield United with a terrible performance in the first half.
So it looks okay there. Let's try FM. Now, FM, obviously we haven't got a telescopic aerial, but I'm hoping that we can get something like Radio Cambridge, which is fairly strong. So let's try that.
And, finding touch. Right idea, wasn't it, Jack Ardale? But I actually saw a number of times from him on Tuesday in that fixture with Charlton. Those diagonal balls which he loves playing, again overhitting it.
3411. Does that sound about right? Is that the right number, Doug?
Yes.
Haven't sneaked an extra man on.
Slightly mucky tone control, but the sound's pretty good. Also, there's an option here, similar to what you find on a lot of the Grundigs, where you can press these two together. And that would allow you to use a DIN socket at the back to feed your external device and put it through the speaker of this radio, which I think in the case of this, because the sound is quite good, might almost be worth doing. I haven't tried it on shortwave, obviously, as there isn't a slightest chance that you're going to get anything on shortwave. A, because of the interference in here, and B, because the aerial's missing. And shortwave, it will be this aerial will be the only way of catching anything at all. So I think the next thing to do is to get it apart and see how we can possibly fit a new aerial into it. Right, well, it looks like there's a couple of screws here. I'll probably have to remove the knobs. I can't see any other screw holes anywhere, unless there's one in the battery compartment, which there sometimes is. Let's have a look in there. It's a bit of a struggle to get that out, to be fair. Can't see anything in the battery compartment. Can't even see quite what type of screws those are. I think I might have to have a bit of illumination on this. Yeah, it looks like a crosshead screw there. So I'm going to start by taking those two out and see if that gets us anywhere. One. It's the other. So does that free anything up? Vaguely, but I think probably we'll have to take something else off first. It doesn't feel like that. Of course. Move the handle, of course. There's two more screws here. Should have thought of that, shouldn't I? Let's see if that helps. Not massively. Right, I'm going to try oh yeah, here we go. So just levered that away. Seems to almost do it, except not at this side for some reason. What's holding it in on this side? No, nothing, it's just a bit of... Right, so there's a very short piece of wire going to the aerial. So here's the aerial. Right, so it's got the fixing here where it goes sideways, which most of the aerials I have, but they're a lot shorter than that. So whether or not I can get, I might have to fix it a little bit further up. So I don't think I've got one of exactly that size. I can have a look, but I don't think I have one that size. Looking at the rest of it, it looks quite a nice sort of layout. Like most things could possibly do with a little bit of a clean. Plus, I noticed that tone control was a bit noisy, so I'll probably squirt some stuff in that. I noticed we had a comment the other day that I wasn't squirting the controls properly. I'm not sure I totally agree with that. You absolutely have to soak it completely straight off. Usually there's enough soaks in, I find, but and if the spraying of alcohol onto it doesn't clean it, you usually end up having to dismantle it or replace it anyway. Nevertheless, I can understand that people, have different techniques with these things. So I'll give that a massive squirt just to use the alternative method, and I'm sure it's worth a try. I don't think these are too bad, though. Nothing like the one we were looking at the other week. Yeah, I think the construction generally seems quite good. So if all we have to do is replace the aerial and clean it up, that could be a fairly quick win. Now also, it seems to be held on by this sort of connector here, which should just pull off, which is good, so you don't have to desolder it. So we can just take the rest of the radio away and concentrate on sorting this bit out. Well, it was a bit of a nightmare getting the old aerial out. This self-tapping screw had been sort of glued in. It was quite reluctant to be withdrawn. I think we might just get another screw for that, because I think I might have done the head of it in now. However, I had a look around and I have one which is remarkably similar in terms of fittings. The only problem is the hinge is in the wrong place. So really the hinge needs to come out up to here when you pull it out. So that, instead of finishing here, I mean, it would work. Sorry, a box just fell over. There's always an incident of some sort going on in here. Um, it would work, but you wouldn't be able to move it around like that, which would limit the functionality. So I think what I might do is try and put a spacer in of some sort that it can, or something that it can anchor to further up, and that might help us out. Right, now further to that, I can't quite get it into the place where it needs to be there, so as well as that, I'm going to have to open out this bit here, which there's not a great deal of scope for that, is there? I'm going to see if I can open out that hole without breaking through and wrecking it, because I've got, I reckon, you know, on a good day, about 1 millimetre there. So that's going to be interesting. Well, I've extended the hole a bit so that this would fit through, but in something which will come as probably not a great surprise to regular viewers, it turns out I'm not quite as clever as I think I am, because this aerial doesn't fully retract for some reason. I can't remember where it came from, but it's got like a detent here, so that doesn't, and it's obviously, it doesn't look like it's been damaged as such. It looks like it's a deliberate stop there to stop that going down any further, which is a problem because I can put it in and get the hinge to appear just outside of there, and I could easily put a spacer in to get that in there. But the only problem then is that if I then retract it, it won't go down low enough for the handle to be put around the back of the set. So so this looked so promising, and obviously I've now made that hole bigger, which I didn't need to do. And the only thing I can think of that I can get in there now is this much smaller one, so I'm going to have to fill that hole in again. On the plus side, I would have had to fill that hole in a bit anyway. Rationalisation time, folks. And then I can get this one in here. It's not ideal again because that won't fully retract, but what at least we can do is sort of move it to there, I suppose. Unless we do the same thing with this one, is always a possibility. No, I don't think so, because see, as soon as you got that there, it's possible. So I put that in there. Could we just get this so that, just lift that through a little bit, we just put that flush there with the back of the set. I mean, it's not ideal, but it looks probably better than the other options. So it turns out I was overthinking it a little in terms of the aerial and the handle, because the handle actually clears the aerial anyway, whatever it does, so I don't need to have it permanently horizontal or whatever. It won't go all the way down, which is unfortunate, but it fits and it works, and yeah, it doesn't look too bad overall. Obviously I've done a bit of a clean-up on it. Looking at the rest of it, I did a bit of a clean-up, as I said. Managed to, with a coin, I managed to remove the PAT test label with a little bit of collateral damage, but not too much. The anti-theft label or whatever it was came off after rubbing it with alcohol, although I ended up with blue fingers. Maybe that was a part of the anti-theft thing, you know, you get caught blue-handed or whatever. Anyway, they're not going to catch me now, are they? And I paid for this, honestly. There's a little screw in there which I've had to put in to hold the new aerial in place. Now actually I didn't have a countersunk 2.5mm screw. If I'd had one, I would have put a countersunk one, which would have looked a little better, but even so, it's a minor blemish on a radio that old, and overall it generally looks pretty good and it sounds pretty good. And I think another measure of the attention to detail here is if we go and have a look at the circuit diagram. We haven't had to look at the circuit diagram on this really because there weren't any electrical faults with it. It was just a broken aerial, so didn't even need to get my soldering iron out for this. But I thought I'd zoom in on this bit here. Now, if you remember, we were talking about those two red and green LEDs which showed you when your battery was healthy or not, and they've spent 4 transistors on doing this. And that, to me, shows, well, maybe one of the guys was a bit bored and he thought he'd spend some time working out this circuit. I mean, obviously, what it does, I'm guessing, so, you know, you've got a capacitor here, which maybe this one or this charges up, so it only runs for a certain amount of time after you switch it on. And then either one or the other of these transistors conduct depending on the battery voltage. But there's quite a lot of work gone into this, so I think that speaks to how seriously they were taking the design of the radio. I think it's a really good radio, actually. I'm quite pleased to have got my hands on this. The sound quality is excellent. I went through and took it outside so that we got better reception. I got plenty of stations on the shortwave. Got good reception on all the other bands. As I said, really good sound. I put it in terms of sound quality and reception in the same category as the Yacht Boy, really, which is quite a compliment. And I don't know quite what the difference in price would have been at the time. I have a feeling the Yacht Boy would have cost a lot more than this. And obviously it's a more imposing and solid thing, but this is pretty good, actually. We were listening to it last night, and even the missus, who isn't normally too impressed with all the radios I have kicking around the house, thought it sounded pretty impressive. Yes, overall I'm glad I got my hands on this. It's good to welcome it to the collection. I'll be using it quite a lot.